Another amazing episode today with Grant Warrington talking really about two big subjects. Number one, off-market deals. This is something I'm trying to get into more. What's great about co-living is you can find deals that cash flow on market. It's just easy. It's quick. I can use my realtor. But man, if you can get into the off-market space, there is more flexibility. There is different creative financing strategies that you can use that just seem to be a little bit easier with these off-market deals. So we'll talk about that. And then we dive into contractors. Now, contractors may seem like a boring subject. What, Sam? You spent 30 minutes or 40 minutes of this episode talking about contractors, but guys, what can make or break a real estate deal is who you use as your contractor. Ask me how I know. I've gotten stiffed by contractors before. I've lost 20. I think I'm sitting right now with one guy that's like 25 or 30K that he just disappeared, right? And I think he went to jail because he had stiffed a bunch of other people too. But my point in saying that is pay close attention, because these strategies that Grant brings in, he used to manage and oversee, and he's done a lot of rehabs before. He used to manage and oversee 800 units. So this guy knows what he's talking about. And some of the strategies, I've been in the real estate space for over a decade, and I have not heard some of the strategies that he's put forth in order to how to find and vet and pay contractors. I love it. I think you'll get a ton of value. As always, please share this with somebody. And if you've been getting any value from this, would you just give a little bit of value back to us and give us a 5-star review on this podcast, on whatever platform you're using to watch it? That'd be very meaningful. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. So tell me a little bit about your contribution to Bigger Pockets. I know you're...
Yeah, so I'll tell you how it happened. I made a commitment to myself, right, with my content. I'm like, I'm going to start posting once a day, every single day. And I did that. On Instagram was my main platform. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to share this stuff in Bigger Pockets in their Facebook group. And I started sharing it in there. And then I think at first some of the moderators, not the people in charge of the page, but some of the moderators got a little pissed off of my content there every day. And then finally, though, the people that actually run the page reached out and they're like, hey, man, we see what you're doing. You're providing a lot of value. We appreciate it. Would you like to have the talk with our head of marketing? We'd like to collaborate with you. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. So I talked to him. His name's Felipe. Awesome dude. We jumped on a Zoom together and he's like, man, you want to be a contributor? We'll share some of your stuff, some of your videos on Instagram and, tag you in it and do all that. And we can grow our accounts together. And for them to reach out to me was huge because back in 2014, I started watching Brandon Turner and Josh Dorkin at November 2014 that on podcast. That's how I started, right? So, and 2 months later, we bought our first single family home. So for me now, Bigger Pockets reaching out to me. I'm like, holy shit, bro. I couldn't believe it. And still I can. It's just like, I don't get paid for it, but just, it's like when you stop and look back to like where you started, you never really realize where you're going to be, which shows me like in the next 7 years, where the hell am I going to be then?
Wow, that's crazy, man.
As long as you don't quit.
One of the things I've been talking about to my community a lot, and I'm all in on co-living. That's what I coach people on. That's what I help people with: co-living, shared housing, room rentals, that whole thing. It's an asset class that I really truly believe is solving affordable housing. But we won't go down that rabbit hole right now. So one of the things I'm talking to my community a lot about is being on social helps. When you go to raise capital specifically, or you go to ask an investor, or you having a presence, people knowing you as the co-living guy, or in your case, as the apartment buying guy off market, or in your case, the Bigger Pockets, like it has helped me and put me in places that I otherwise would never have been, just because, similar to you, making that decision, like I am going to put out content once a day. And that decision has radically changed your life, like you just described, and it's radically changed mine. So I'm curious, what other benefits have you seen? Maybe someone who's like, I don't want to post, or they're just like, and I'm encouraging them to, and now they're listening to you and you're encouraging them to. But let's talk about the benefits. What are the other benefits that you've seen from being online, from posting content regularly?
I mean, for one thing, it gets me on this podcast, right? Like without that, you probably wouldn't know who I was. Sure, we wouldn't go abundance together, but you know what I mean? people notice. So it gets me in podcasts that I really would have no business. I probably have no business being on this anyway, but it gets me that.
You deserve to be on here, man.
The other thing is, and people really need to listen to this. I got 1 million free views on my content in the last 30 days. 1 million people saw my stuff. So, when people ask me like, well, what's your return on investment? I spend a lot of money on content. We can get into that. I got 2 video editors, but a return on investment really is just a social return. And that's what I tell people right now. It's just a social return. I had 1 million people now know who I am and saw my stuff for free. What is that? What is the value in that? I'll let you know in 5 years, because I'm not going to quit and I'm going to be around in another 5 years. And then, in 5 years from now, I know that return. I'll be able to put a finger on it and say, this was the return I got from spending all that money and all that time doing social. But I can't do it today. But, I started with one shitty video every day, and they weren't great. You can go way back in my feed and you can see my videos. I had a button down shirt on and looked like a tool. And that's what I did. I didn't know any better, but I made that commitment to myself. I'm going to do it. Now I post 3 reels a day, 4 static posts a week, and 21 stories a week. So we have like 50 pieces of content just on Instagram alone going out. But I didn't start there, and nobody has to. So you are right on point with telling your community to start posting.
Yeah, I think the truth is, like, even if you're not, so there's what I hear you saying is like, there's a hard paycheck of like, the truth is, and man, I know, cause I've seen your stuff, like you're making a difference. I see the comments on your posts. I see the comments, people going, hey, that's helpful. That's beneficial. Thank you for that. It inspired me, or what, I see those comments. And heck, I even learned, I was watching before this podcast, man. I was like going through some of your posts and I was like, good idea. I need to ask him about that. I really like this idea. And I've been a real estate investor for a decade, right? And I'm like, so my point is, like, there's that hard paycheck of like, you're helping, supporting people in this journey that you're on. And I also think like it does turn into dollars and cents. Like whether or not that's your, what I'm hearing from you is like, that's just not your focus right now. You're not like, I have to turn this into money, but you have a course. I'm sure if you put out a post and said, I need this type of deal in this market, there would be some traction, or somebody would see that. That's how so it can produce that. I want people to understand, like, it can produce dollars and cents, but I love what you're doing. You're like, hey, I'm playing a long game. Like, I don't need it to produce $1 today. I'll be here in 5 years. It'll produce $1 in 5 years. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, 100%. And my course, the Apartment Buying Blueprint, my goal too with my content is to find me like 5 years ago when I started, because I know that I'm out there and I didn't have me showing me through videos and teaching me. And now with an online course, I had to figure it out as I went. Now, I did have people that when I got stuck, I could ask them a question, but nobody was there holding my hand through the process. And that's my goal, is like, I built this thing and I'm like, I'm going to help me 5 years ago. And that's the whole point. And my content too does bring people in. They get to see me. They get to see, like, this dude was a construction worker. I'm not brilliant. I wasn't an engineer. I didn't go to college. I just started making some videos. I spent a lot of money doing things wrong, and I post videos about that. And I'm honest, and I tell people, sometimes this sucks. But we just had some flooding, right? So we had to deal with that. For 2 weeks, our life sucked. And then guess what? For the next couple of months, you forget about it. You get to sleep in, you do whatever you want. It's like you're living your life on vacation again. And it's incredible. But I'm honest about that. And I think that's what people really appreciate too. Like, if I do say so myself, that like, I'll show you the bad too. I'll show you how much money I spent. I'll show you the expensive lessons we learned because we paid for them. And I got the receipts to show it.
That's great. So when you put your content out there, if the listeners, are taking this to heart, you're in this to the person you can probably help the most is who you were 5 years ago, because you know that process. That's your life. You can share that story well. Dude, I see it. I love it. Well, man, I would like to talk about real estate. I'd like to dive into that. I've got a community that is, very interested in financial freedom, as a lot of people are, but this community is is kind of bought in on this idea that co-living has a place to play with just this room rental strategy. And so something that I am not an expert in is off-market deals. I know it's something that you have strategies for, specifically off-market apartment deals. So I'd love to just ask, a little bit about, could you share with us a little bit about your experience with buying off-market deals, and what would you say are the high-level tips on how someone can get started in the off-market space who maybe doesn't have any experience in the off-market space?
Yeah. So again, my off-market space is specific to small apartments, and that's what I teach people to buy. So it's 5 units it's really like 5 to 50, but I don't want to scare people when I say that. So I say like 5 to 20. But really it all works. It doesn't matter, up until a syndication. So for off market, here's what I do. First of all, I have a webinar on this, and I teach you my 5 strategies. I'll give you 2 real quick. The first, and everyone's going to say, oh, that won't work. But this is the first. Tell everyone you know. And I mean everybody. Tell everybody, I'm looking to buy an apartment building. Do you know anybody that owns one? That's how we bought 2 buildings, a 20 unit and an 11 unit building. So that's the first one, is tell every single person and don't stop telling them. The guys at the gym, the checkout person at Lowe's, your waitress at the restaurant. I told everyone, and that's how we found those 2.
That goes back to what we just shared, man. It's like you having a presence, you being on social, people knowing who you are and what you're about. Like, I want to hear number 2, but I got to tell you this quick story. I was, when I was running, so my history was I built a chain of martial arts schools, and I had a mentor, and he told me to walk around. He said, you go into your normal day when you go shopping at the grocery store, whatever. He said, wear a name tag. And the name tag said something like, hi, I'm Sam. Ask me how I teach self-defense, or ask me how I teach people to defend themselves. And it was the stupidest, silliest idea, but I freaking wore this name tag everywhere I went in the day. And people would ask me, like, what the frick is it? Like, well, why are you wearing a self-defense name tag? I'd be like, I run a karate school right down the street. Here's a 30-day guest pass. So, like, I guess I'm just saying that to say, like, I get it, dude. It does work. What you're saying works. Like, you're sharing with the people that you come across in your normal day. So I love that.
That's awesome advice, dude. I love that story. That is cool. I never heard that. So yeah, number 2, what I tell people to do, and I teach them how to do this, like I said in the webinar, is you take Google Maps, right? Nobody else does this. I think I'm the only one that does. And everybody else does like driving for dollars. Everyone's heard that. They all know about this, but this is scrolling for dollars. So I go on Google Maps. What is
driving for dollars, actually, just for someone who doesn't know?
Okay, so driving for dollars, you're going to drive around your neighborhood in your car, and you're going to look for dilapidated, let's say houses, but apartment buildings, since we're talking about apartment buildings. Just things that look beat up, right? The grass is long, the shutters are falling off. They look terrible, right? So that's driving for dollars, and you're going to find out the owner of that property, and you're going to contact that owner at some point. But how do you do that? That's the next step. But step number 1, what I teach people is pick an area. So the area that we used to focus on was Lincoln Park, Michigan. And what I do is I pull them up on Google Maps, and I just start scrolling, and I look for large roofs and large parking lots. And chances are those are apartment buildings. And when I find one, I drop down to Street View, and you can look and go, yep, that's an apartment building. And then I teach people how to create an owner tracking list. You put all your info in there, and that's your first apartment building. And then I teach people how to find the actual owner of the building, and then how to find the owner's phone number. And 99% of the time it's their cell phone. And then I teach people how to call them on the phone, because most people send out letters. I don't do that. I throw letters away when I get them. I teach people how to call them, contact people, and just have a conversation. And that's scrolling for dollars. And it's so easy to do. It's free. So when I teach people the webinar, they have all those skills when they get off it. It's completely free, and you can do it from your home.
Wow, that's awesome. How does someone get signed up for the webinar, just since we're talking about that right now, if they want to do it?
I believe it's apartmentbuyingblueprint.com/workshop. Or they can go Instagram at Grant Warrington and hit the link in my bio, and there'll be a sign up there too. I
saw that there. We'll drop those links in the show notes as well. So at a high level, and again, I asked driving for dollars. Like one of the one of the beautiful things about co-living is that we're able to still find deals that cash flow with the co-living model on market. So out of the 35 properties I own right now, I think I've bought one off market.
Wow.
So I say that to say, like, to you,
Yeah.
driving, like, my community is not super necessary. I know I'm not super well versed in this. So talk to me about a high level about, okay, I find what's funny too, Grant, is that we look for large roofs and large parking lots, but they're for single family homes. So they're not like, we're looking for a big single family home that has enough parking to fit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people to share this house. So it's ironically similar to what you're looking for, which is interesting. So, okay, so I find this house. And we don't have to go through every single detail on this, but at a very high level, how do I find an owner?
How do you find an owner? So you would have to go to and I can speak in Michigan. In the webinar, I get a little more specific, but you can go to business entity search. Well, first you go in SBA online, I believe it's called, and you can look up, and you can do that anywhere in the country. I believe it's BSA online. I believe you can pull it up if you got your screen there, just to fact check me here because I forget the website every time. So BS and A online, and you can put in your state, and then you can put in your municipality as long as they participate, and you can find the owner of that property. Now, if you're a realtor, extremely easy, right? You just can look in public records if you're a realtor in that state. But BS&A online is a good way to start, and then you can find the owner's name. Once you find the owner's name, you're great, and then we would move on to the next step. However, if it's a company, then you would go to, in Michigan, business entity search, and you would find that business entity, and then it'll tell you the owner of that business entity. And then we would pull up public records with that person's name, and then that's how you can get their cell phone number.
Yeah, it's bsaonline.com is the website. Yeah.
See there, I forget all that. That's why when I'm so fortunate I got the webinar, because I can just go off it. So you don't have to be brilliant to do this, is my point.
Yeah. So you find it sounds like you find the info, you just get scrappy. You get scrappy about how you find that person. I mean, a lot of times I found people's numbers even by just Googling their name. And not even for real estate. I'm just talking like, hey, someone I forgot their info or whatever. I can Google their name, and you'd be surprised at how many, if they have any kind of public record at all. There's a lot of different ways to search for them. So that's awesome.
And that's, on my webinar, I have to tell people too, I'm like, listen, this is what I'm going to show you is all public records, guys. Don't get offended. Like, you're going to see home addresses, cell phone number. This is all public records. So you get really granular online.
Yeah.
For free.
And it's interesting too. I've also found people by Googling them, their social will pop up, and I DM them on social.
Oh, wow.
It helps if they have a unique name.
Yeah,
there's not 100%. Many Sam Wiegerts, but if someone Googles themselves, like, you can see how many records actually pop up, and it is like, oh my gosh, like it almost feels like someone's tracking you.
Yeah, you're right.
Why is off market important?
To tell you the truth, because I'd say 95% or more of the deals you're looking at aren't deals on market. So I teach people, create your own deal. If you can find, because most people don't realize that all these small properties exist in their area until you actually start looking and writing them down. And, the benefit is you can create your own deal. And these people you're finding are usually mom and pop landlords, 60s, 70s that are just done doing this. And they own it outright. So seller financing is a big option with them, right? So they don't need that big payday, and you can structure it. You can get your interest rates down, and you have all the leverage to structure this deal together because there's no bank involved, right? The seller would be the one financing the deal. So to me, that's the importance of off market and learning these skills, the skills you teach, the skills I teach. I think people really need to realize that something's shifting or might happen in the economy, right? Something's going to happen. Now, if you were learning these skills in 2007, right? and all of a sudden you're sharp. You know how to buy apartments, you know, the co-living space, you know it cold, right? And then 2008 happens, right? And you're buying properties for 25 cents on the dollar. Dude, you're going to smoke it, right? I mean, you're going to kill it. I had a buddy do that who was prepared. In 2010 is when he actually started buying. His net worth is 30 million today. He's in his 30s. So, I mean, I don't think they realize that if something does happen, I'm not saying that we're going to experience that again, but there's probably going to be some deals out there and you need to be prepared to take advantage of it.
So since we're talking about that, I'm curious your opinion on this. You buy small apartment buildings. I mean, obviously a lot of times there's, different commercial type debt that resets every 5 or 7 years on apartment buildings. And so, I know a bunch of my friends who have big apartment buildings, unfortunately, are experiencing a little bit of pain, or at least are having trouble sleeping just because they're like, okay, my interest rate was 3 point whatever. And now when I reset, it's going to be 6 point or 7 point or, something. So yeah, do you think that market is in for a world of hurt? Is it going to crash? And I'm talking not like market in general. I'm talking like specifically like commercial real estate that has these kind of interest rates that reset, every 5 or 7 or however long you've negotiated it for.
I think there's going to be an issue. I think, yeah, something's going to have to be done because, yeah, there will be a problem with that, with these large complexes. I think you're already seeing that people are buying these deals at discounts, and I don't think we're really into the worst part of it. I don't know what's going to happen with the economy. I'm not that smart to be able to figure that out, but if something does happen, I think you should be prepared for it, just to be able to take advantage of it.
What are you doing to prepare?
Currently, we just moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. So just 4 months ago, my wife and I. So my wife and I are trying to figure out, is this the area we want to invest in? So we're learning the market, we're learning the area, and we're trying to figure out, is Florida necessarily where we want to invest? Or is it going to be in another southern state? We started in Detroit, in the Detroit area. And, our plan is more than likely in 2 years to sell everything we have in the Detroit area and then buy a bigger asset and just trade up somewhere south. So as of now, we've kind of paused and we're trying to figure out our bearings, where we're at and what we want to do.
Kind of looking, but for you, it's like location is important. Like, where's that going to be, that, like, let's call it recession proof or resilient type location?
Exactly.
Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So a blue state.
Yes. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. I know I'm on both sides of the fence on that, but okay, cool. I want to transition, man. I kind of told you at the beginning of this that I really think you have a lot of superpowers, but I think the off-market deal, hopefully people will hear what you shared, get value from this, dig into your webinar and kind of go deeper on the off-market stuff. Is there any other, before we kind of transition from that, what other, maybe just put a bow on the off-market things, anything else you want to share about just people who are kind of curious about that space, getting started in that space, that you want to share before we move on from that?
This is something I probably need to look up, but I wish I had the statistics on the baby boomers who, I know you've heard, all of these people that are retiring, all these baby boomers that are giving up their businesses and they're just having to let them go because there's no one to buy them. It's the same thing with these small apartments that these people own. These people are transitioning out of it and don't want to be those mom and pop landlords. So here's the thing too. You get, Bigger Pockets, which I loved, which is how I started, teaches you how to buy a single family rental, right? And then you get how to syndicate 100 units and above. There's really nobody in this space except me that's teaching you, look, there's this whole other place here of small apartments. I get large syndicators now. I was just talking with a buddy of mine the other day, and he's like, I think I'm going to start doing what you do because it's ownership. Like I saw a reel Grant Cardone did the other day. He said he had, when he had 10,000 units, assets under management as a syndicator, he was making like $2,500 a month. And we own 41 units and we cash flow $10,000 a month. So I want people to see that when they hear somebody say, yeah, I have 10,000 units in assets under management, that really doesn't mean a lot. They're not making a lot of money. Ownership and pure 100% ownership. And that's what my wife and I have. So, That's the value.
Right.
And on that first 20 unit, after 16 months, we refinanced it. It was a couple of years ago, obviously, but we got a check for $300,000, got all our money out, and went and bought an 11-unit building. So, I mean, it's powerful.
Do you ever come across small apartment buildings that have more than 3 bedrooms per unit? Very selfish question here.
I've seen them out there, but no, they're not very common. And to be honest, it wouldn't be something that I would want to get into. I'll tell you the truth. I love 1 bedrooms. Two bedrooms are great too. I never thought I'd say that, but you get less people, hopefully, in the 1 bedroom. You don't get, more than likely it's a couple. There's not a bunch of kids running around, exploring, doing damage, all the shit I used to do when I was a kid,
I grew up in a family of 8. I get that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, plug for co-living. If you ever come across 3-bedroom units or 4-bedroom units and you want to flip something, please let me know. I'm not actively pursuing it because we're finding enough single family homes that fit our model. But one of the things that's been talked about in my community a decent amount, and I think it would fit kind of what you're doing, is like, oh, I found a small community. I found a small multifamily building, but they actually they're 3 or 4 bedroom units. And like you said, they're not insanely common, but you find something that has a mix of 3 and 4 bedrooms, like the numbers, we can go in and double the cash flow on one of those units and really increase the NOI on that. And so if you come across anything, please shoot it my way. We'd love to, you've got someone that you can flip those to, and I have a network across the United States that would probably be willing to buy them.
Awesome, man. Good to know. All right. I'll do that.
And great to hear you don't want them, so we'll take them.
Exactly.
So you started off as a construction worker, so you have hands-on experience doing construction, which is insanely valuable, right?
No, it's not. Okay, and that's the problem. And I need to really be specific about this. It's what people think. I was a crane operator. So you've seen cranes, they build, put up bridges and they do all these things. That does not translate to working on a house. So now, if I'd have been a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, that would have been fantastic, but I can't take my crane to the house and work on the house. So I had no skills. I really didn't. I had to learn as I went, and I became a little bit handy. And that was a downfall of mine too. After a certain point, a friend of mine said, are you saving money by being the handyman, or are you creating money? And I said, I'm saving money. And he said, dude, you need to create money, bro. You're doing the wrong thing. So that luckily got me out of that. But yeah, no, I had no skills. And that's the truth when I got into this.
So man, I'm curious your answer to this question. Why do some people just get into a bad, I was just talking with someone the other day, and she was saying how the contractor she hired, and then she paid him like $100,000, and he was supposed to do all this work, and then he just skipped town, and she's in another state, and the house she's rehabbing is in another state, and she's like 170 into this thing. Why do some people get into why do some people get with and get pulled into bad contractors, man?
I think it's just, and I'm not to talk specifically about her, but maybe I'll just generalize because I don't want to offend anybody, but I think, and I can speak for myself, it's just lazy. I think it's just easier to trust someone because they're going to tell you what a great job they're going to do. And you're like, all right, that's great. I can just give them my money. I don't have to think about it, learn about it. They're doing this thing. I am now a real estate investor, right? And it's like, no, you're not. It's work. So, some of the things I did, and I managed, when I quit that construction job, I managed 800 units for the director of operations for a property management company. So I learned a lot. And some of the things we would do is, and now we do in our business, is we would pay people in 4 different installments. A quarter of the way. First, we provide all the material. So I don't need to give them any material. I have Lowe's. We ship it all to our units, our apartments, whatever it is, and that's all in the house, ready to go. They get to work. I don't pay anybody for labor in advance. It's just stupid to have to do that because they can put a lien on my house. My house isn't going to go anywhere, but I can't put a lien on them if they don't show up. So they have me by the balls, right? So what I do is I tell them I'll pay you at 25% draw when 25% of the work's done, and we specify that. And I'm the one that decides when we hit 25%, and then 50%, 75%. And then at the end of the punch list, I will pay them the final draw. And that's what I do. And again, we don't pay on labor. We don't pay in advance. If a painter's showing up, I pay for paint. And if they need money, and any of your contractors, you can tell them this. If they say, well, hey, I need money. Well, I'll meet you at the project. And when you're there working the first day, I'll give you a small draw for labor or something like that. But you need them to be there, because what happens is, they're going to go out and shop 10 other jobs, and whoever's giving them the money or the next job is where they're going to be at, trying to get money from that job. If you've already paid them, you are just back of mind. And that's the problem. So you got to be very, very careful with this. I think you need to love everybody and respect everybody, but you need to look at it like everyone is really going to screw you. And when you look at it like that, and you get more in protect mode with everyone, then you really will protect yourself.
Yeah, this is where like the optimists and the pessimists kind of come together, and you're like, I'm just so optimistic. It's like, well, actually in this business, and I find this even, and I'm sure you teach this too, I haven't, it's like, even when you underwrite deals, like there's a little version of you that if you can come out and be a pessimist, like you're saying, that's going to serve you well in this industry long term. Like we were talking about with the economy, like, hey, we're not just expecting it to go up and up and up and up. We think something's going to happen. We're preparing. You're looking for different locations. I'm redeploying from short-term rentals into co-living because I believe I'm being a little bit of a pessimist. So I think, dude, that's such good advice. That what you just shared, I want to acknowledge you for this. What you just shared may seem simple to you, but that's mind-blowing. I've rehabbed a bunch of houses. I've never heard that ever. Like that's and I will probably start doing what you literally just said on contractors. Like, hey man, I will pay for materials. It's going to go to the job, and then I'll pay you 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. And I'm paying those in arrears. But that's typical. That's like any staff member. If I hire you to work for me today, I'm not going to pay you in advance your month's salary. I'm going to pay you after you work 15 days and after you work 30 days. That's typical. That's normal. And I think the other piece of this that, again, we might take for granted, but I think people need to hear is like, you are also showing up at the job at 25%. You're not accepting a video. You are, if you're a couple states away, like I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're flying to the job, right?
Yeah, I would, luckily we were in our own backyard where we invested, but yeah, that's what makes it easy. And I tell people, in my course, invest where you have people. My dad lives in Detroit. I can have my dad go walk the property and take a look at it and call bullshit. You know what I mean? If I needed to, but I'm going to go myself. And that's what I suggest people do is, show up and see what they say. Cause 9 times out of 10, they're trying to get paid before that draw. And if they need money and want to get paid, show up and, just work faster and you can get paid quicker. So it's an incentivized thing. And again, for the last payment, I always tell people, pay after the punch list, not when it's done, because they will not come back for the punch list. It'll be a month before you see them again. So you have to pay them at the end of the punch list.
And when you say punch list, that's your like, the job has been done and you're like, fix that little piece of trim. This light needs to be adjusted, like that level of detail for they're done.
Correct. And you need to get there quickly. When they say, hey, we're done, great. Get there, do your punch list, get that to them as soon as possible, because I want to pay these people. I want them to have great lives, be prosperous. You know what I mean? I want all these things for them too. So I want to pay them. I don't want it to come across as that's not the case. I want them to make a good living. But so don't hold them up, get them the punch list, and then it's on them to complete that. And you better believe they're going to complete it very quickly because they want that final draw.
What would you say to someone who is rehabbing houses? Maybe they're converting a home to a co-living, or maybe they're buying a small apartment building and just updating things, and they truly don't know anything about construction. Like I was lucky. I was a construction worker in my teens. I actually framed houses. So if you were to show me a wall, like, this is a great wall, like I'd be able to call bullshit, like you're saying, on like, no man, like that looks like crap. That's not done right. Like, and I don't know everything, but I know enough to know like if it's decent. But in my experience, a lot of the people that even join my community, join my course, like they want to become financially free. They love this asset class of real estate. Right? They get all the benefits, the appreciation, the principal data, but they don't know crap about construction. How would you coach? How would you coach and advise someone to really hold a contractor accountable when they don't know a lot about construction?
Well, I would say YouTube. First of all, you need to look it up. If there's a problem, don't just take their word for it. You would not believe the times that I have to call the plumber or whoever over and say, listen, you're wrong. If it happens again, we're going to have to part ways, dude. You know, and this is a licensed plumber, and who am I? I'm someone that's done it, paid for it, seen it, have gone through it, but I didn't know that in the beginning. So when you tell me one thing, I'd have to Google it. I'd have to figure it out, get another quote. You know what I mean? See what someone else says. For instance, we had, this is a good point. We had a boiler. It's a small little boiler, and we had a guy recommended. He came over and he called me and said, dude, it's leaking carbon monoxide, and I had to shut your boiler down. I'm like, what? It was the middle of summer. That's why we had him out there working on it. Come to find out, he had disconnected something inside the boiler. He disconnected the gas. He did all these different things that we didn't even know. And I said, how'd you test the boiler for the CO leaking? And he said, what do you mean? I said, did you use a little monitor like you put at, in front of a vent on a home for a furnace? And he said, yeah, I did that. I said, that's not how you test a boiler for carbon monoxide leak. So I'm like, you're full of shit. I'm getting all fired up just thinking about it now. So we had to call,
I felt the intensity of that.
Yeah. We had to call another guy out. This was just, luckily we were doing it in the summer because we're real proactive. Because we know in the winter, you're screwed. You have to. So if it was the winter and our tenants didn't have heat, we would have paid for a new boiler because this guy disassembled it and said it's unsafe. So we had another contractor come out, had to fix everything. The guy's like, there is nothing wrong with your boiler. It just needs to be cleaned. And so lesson learned there is don't just trust. You need to verify yourself. And you can look it up on the internet. You can Google it. You need to do these things because sometimes people are going to deliberately mislead you. And other times there just might not be 100% sure. And that's the truth. And I always tell people too, you got to look at it like this. When what do you call a person that graduates medical school in the bottom of their class? Right? A doctor. Right? They're the same as the person that graduates in the top of the class.
That's great.
Right? So you get the same thing with contractors. Some are really, really good and some are really, really bad. You're not going to know which one you got. And it's kind of scary. So you need to really verify and just do some Google search, do a little research on what it is, and that'll save you a lot of money.
Dude, that advice that you just, that's gold, pure gold. Thank you for that. I have two questions around contractors. One, how do you vet them? Do you I've heard some people are like, well, I start them with a really small job. Then I work them up to bigger jobs. I mean, do you have a vetting process of some sort, even if it's in your mind, to find those great contractors? And then what's your process for like pricing out a job? I know this is detailed, but this is really valuable stuff, man, that and like, do you get 2 quotes? Do you get 3 quotes? Are you like, I'm the guy who gets 10 quotes and then I whittle it down to 5 and then I whittle it down to 2? Like, do you have a process there? Or even if it's, talk to us about those 2 things.
Well, it's so hard to find people that, no, I don't get 10 quotes because you can't get 10 people to come out and quote it. They just won't. If you get 3 people to come out, to be honest, you're doing really good. Because contractors don't make money giving quotes. So what I do, and I'll tell you what I do for painters. This is a really good example. First, I go to Sherwin-Williams, and I ask them 2 things. I say, hey, do you know any apartment painters? And do you know any maintenance guys, handymen at the Sherwin-Williams paint store? And a lot of times they do. They'll say, yeah, this guy comes in all the time, blah, blah, blah. Here's his number, here's his card, whatever. And that's how I get my referrals. And then when I call these painters and they want to come out and give me a quote and do all these grand things, I'm like, listen, we're apartments. So it's 900 square feet. Give me a ballpark. We paint the walls agreeable gray. We paint the ceiling CHB, and we paint the doors and trim semi-gloss white. Just give me a ballpark. I'm not holding you to it. And when they say $2,200, I say, no, sorry. We're getting it done for $600 or I think $400 we're getting it done for. That's not for paint, but that's for labor, and that's apartment painting. Now, is it going to be the absolute best job? No, it's not. There's a trade-off with that. And if you don't realize that, it still needs to be good, right? Because we're putting tenants in this brand new rehabbed place, but it's not going to be perfect. And that's the trade-off. But that's how I vet contractors. The other thing I'll do is if I'm driving through my neighborhood and, your neighbors, you see somebody working on your neighbor's house, they're a handyman, whatever, not a big company, but a guy in a truck with a ladder on top, or that doesn't look, like he's got some problems. I stop and I ask him, I'm like, hey man, what do you do? Do you work with property management companies? That's what I always say, because pricing is different for property management companies for homeowners. And I tell them that too. I say, listen, I'm a property management company and we don't pay homeowner prices. Do you work with any? And a lot of guys do, and they understand that the pricing is a little bit different with that. So, and the other thing with the handyman, I ask them, a lot of times I'll ask them, well, what are you looking to make an hour? And if they don't want to tell me that, then I'll ask them, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to make for the job? Like, I need this bathroom vanity tore out and put back in. How much you want to make? And these are the questions I ask him. And he says $1,000. I go, okay, that's just for the labor. That's not material. He says, no, that's not material. I said, okay. And this is important. You ask him, how many hours do you think it'll take? Like, so I can figure this out. And he'll say, well, 4 hours. I'm like, okay, so let's do the math. I'm going to pay you $250 an hour to take a vanity out and put a new vanity in. Now, anybody listening to this podcast should go, that's a lot of money. And you don't know a lot about construction, right? Whoever's listening to this podcast, you don't have to know a lot about construction. Just do some simple math and go, $250, that's way more than what I make. And that's what I do. I do that with the plumber. I do that, and I had a plumber get all pissed off at me about that because I needed something changed. And he said $800. And I said, well, how long will it take? And he said 2 hours. I said, so it's $400 an hour? And he said, well, that's not how I do it. I'm a plumber or whatever. I'm like, well, listen, bro, I appreciate it, but it's not how I do it. I can't. Now, you're going to pay plumbers and licensed people more money, but you also can't get ripped off, or you're going to be out of this. You'll be out of this business very quickly.
Yeah, man. I think what I want to pull out a nugget that you're saying in so many words, and it's gold the way you're saying it, but I just want to pull this nugget out of I just find it impressive how you ask so many questions. And I think beginners, and you're experienced, so you have that courage to go in and say, that's a great line of questioning. What's it going to cost? How much time is that going to take you? And then you get them to see, hey man, is that's really what you're charging? And they're like, whoa, okay, whatever. And you can at least open it up for negotiation or a conversation, or just hey, you're my guy.
Yeah.
But I hope what people are taking away from this is that, and the way I try to explain it to people is look, you have a responsibility to your money, or if you're raising someone else's money, you even have more of a responsibility in some ways to keep your investors' money safe. And so the least you can do is have that courage to ask some of these kind of what I would consider difficult questions. And they are. I mean, I'll be talking with a contractor and I'll be vibing with him and he's telling me all the things he's going to do. This could be for a porch I'm building on my personal house. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you sound awesome. Let's just go. And we haven't even talked price yet, and I just like the guy. And I think I see that happen. I've seen myself get kind of pulled into that trap. And then he feels like he's already secured the job. So he throws a big quote out there. And then if you don't have that confidence to go back and say, hey man, let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation. Then I think you can get, to use your words, you can get screwed over. And you are not taking care of your investors or your family by giving extra money away that truly isn't warranted or isn't needed. So I think it's brilliant. Question everything. One of my spiritual mentors says question everything, but it applies to this as well.
Yeah, 100%. And now, we pay our handymen by the hour because we know them. We know how many hours it takes. We've rehabbed 38, I think, out of our 41 units. So we know what we're doing. So we can pay them by the hour. They get paid. One guy we actually pay the same day, and we're fine with that because he's a solid dude. shows up, does what he's supposed to. We can trust him. And that's a big thing too. When you find somebody you can trust, it's big. I was in an apartment. I was shooting some content for an Instagram reel, and this handyman walked in. Now he was rehabbing the unit upstairs in the apartment building, and he walked in and he goes, "Oh, hey bro, I'm just going to I'm shutting the windows. It's going to rain. I want to make sure that no rain gets in here." And I'm like, that's solid, dude. You know what I mean? That's looking out for us. He didn't have to do that. Most people won't, but I'm like, I respect that when somebody appreciates us. So we appreciate him too. And for him, we'll give him Christmas bonuses and all kinds of different stuff just to, I mean, you know, because when you find somebody good, you really need to take care of them too and pay them correctly, you know, and you should, I mean, you're for a handyman, you know, we're paying probably $30 an hour up to 50, but 50 is, the guy we pay 50 is the superintendent. He builds apartment buildings. He's an incredible, superintendent, and he helps us out. He does not need us. So that's why, you know, the guy can fix anything. I've never seen anybody like him. And just bunch of respect for him. So that's why he's at that level.
Wow. That's great, man. This is gold. Any other final tips on finding the right contractor, picking them, just to put a bow on this subject, man? Thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge on this. This is very valuable. I've learned from this section a lot as well. Anything else you want to say as far as just people who are getting into the game and have a small or a large rehab to do? I think the truth is, like, people just think it's going to be easy when they get in. You know, they're like, oh, it's just they've seen HGTV, and like a whole house can be flipped in like 20 minutes on HGTV.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, I think if people just realize that, like, look, you're going to go through points where it sucks, and you're going to go through points where it's very rewarding. Just accept it, understand that, and if you're just like, okay, I remember they said that it was going to suck. It sucks, and it sucked bad for us at times. But if you just realize that, then you won't quit. Quitting's the way that you will fail. So you just don't quit. But back to your question about the contractors, what I do is, and here we're in Florida, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, this is our new area. I'll take pictures of contractors' trucks. I'm driving around, I see a painter, I see a handyman, I take it. And what I do is I create a folder. This folder is called Florida Contractors. And I just throw that picture in there. I might never need them, but back at home, when we would do this, I have probably 20 painters in there. So if my wife's like, hey, our painter just flaked out, which happens a lot, I'm like, no problem. I got all these pictures with the phone number of the truck, and then we can just call through and we can call 10 painters and try and line somebody out and ask their pricing and blah, blah, blah. So get these contractors before you need them. Put them into an album so you always have them. And then again, when you're at Lowe's or anything like that, when you see these contractors, you see the name on their shirt, ask them. Ask people at Sherwin-Williams, hey, do you know any of these people that do this work? Ask the people at the Pro Desk at Lowe's or Home Depot. You just talk to people and you'll find somebody. That's how I found an electrician. I was in line talking to the checkout lady, and I said, hey, do you happen to know any electricians? And she's like, no, I don't. I'm like, all right. I walk outside, I'm putting my stuff in the car, and this guy comes running over. He's like, hey, man, I was 3 people behind you. I'm an electrician. I'm a licensed electrician. I work on the side. What do you need? I'm like, boom, there he is. Awesome. I found him. That's how it works. Awesome. You know what I mean? You just got to not be afraid and just open your mouth and talk to people. Wow.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Lowe's. I think that you could just hang out at Lowe's for a good hour on the pro side, and like, there you go. Like, those are your contacts.
100%. Sit in the car and watch them come in and out, you know?
Stock contractors at Lowe's.
Yeah.
Dude, that's going to be the name of this podcast episode. I'm going to be like, how Grant Warrington teaches us how to stock contractors at Lowe's. One of my best contractors, man, I went and looked at a house to buy. And the house just recently been rehabbed. And I found out, my realtor was like, yeah, something in the listing said that like the homeowner did the rehab. And I was like, this guy's like, it's good. Like, this looks nice. And his van was out in the parking. So I just snapped a picture similar to what you're saying of the little tiny like laminate that he had on the window. And this guy has rehabbed probably 20 houses around here. It was just random so you're right. Like, it works. As simple as that sounds, it works.
So ours, the one we found, besides the guy we pay 50, the other guy that we found, I was getting a quote on a porch. I had to get a porch redone, and I told them, "Hey, do you guys know a handyman?" And the owner of the company was there, and he said, "Yeah, this guy right here." And he's like, No, I'm fine working where I'm at. Well, I said, "Listen, if you ever change your mind, here's my number." A year later, the guy calls me, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I quit that job. Do you have any work?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." He's rehabbed probably 15 units for us. And he does an amazing job. That's the guy that was shutting the windows for us and everything. And the other beautiful thing, and this is what people can do when you network and meet other property owners, other landlords in your area. A friend of mine came to me and he's like, "Hey, dude, how about we split your contractor?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." He's like, "You'll get, first right of refusal. You get to use him. And then when you don't need him, I can use him." And I'm like, "That works perfect." And I told you, we're almost done with all of our rehabs. So now he's transitioned over to working for the other guy full time. And then he comes back to us now when we need him, which isn't very often, but
you pay him like a salary? You pay him like a salary type thing, or no, it's still by the job or hourly?
it was still hourly. We were paying him hourly, but we had so many rehabs we were going through. I think 34 rehabs in like 3 years or 2 years or something like that. It was just insane. So we
You
had
were able to promise him more work.
Always.
You were able to retain him basically.
Yes.
Is the value of what you just shared is like, hey, this guy can be like our guy. He doesn't have to go out and get other jobs.
Correct.
We're not quoting things out. He's our guy. Yeah.
Exactly. But we knew it would run out one day. So this was the perfect situation. And with us, what we like to do, like with this guy, we have 4 rehabs like sitting there. So what we like to do is he comes in, he does the, I think it's like a day worth of prep and removal. And then all of a sudden we get him out. And then we hire a painter. He doesn't do the painting. We hire Sherwin-Williams to come in and do all of our flooring. He doesn't do the flooring. And then we get the tub reglazed, and we have a plumber come in and replace all the shutoffs because he doesn't like to do plumbing. But the beautiful thing about that is he's already gone working on the next unit. And we have all these subs come in behind him and do all that work. And then he'll jump to the next one. The subs will follow after him. And that way we can keep turning these units fast, because if we have that handyman in there doing the painting, doing the flooring, doing everything, he's in that one unit forever. So, Sherwin-Williams installs flooring in 1 day, in and out, and you cannot beat their pricing and their labor. So
that's cool.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I think what comes up for me is like this is so great. I want to kind of make 2 points here for the listeners. Number one is, if you stick with that model that Grant that you shared on how to pay them, I think that is, because then you can go in, you can inspect the work, and you can not pay them if it's not up to par, if you see things that are wrong. And feel free to bring your contractor friend with you if you don't know a lot about the contracting space. I think that is like this catch-all, right? And then you're not, but then, so that's point number one. Point number two is, we spent a decent amount of time on this podcast talking about contracting, and I could just think someone's like, okay, like I got this. But the truth is, like, I literally just yesterday got a text from a guy who had ghosted me. I paid him $25K to do this thing. He ghosted me. I then found out he had been scamming like everybody in our neighborhood. They had all paid him like, this guy had taken like $250K from everybody on like the first 50% deposit, because I wasn't following the model that you just shared. I was giving them 50% upfront, right? Like half now, half when it's done kind of thing. And so my point in saying that is, guys, I hope people are taking away from this that this conversation is so important. This could have been one job. This could be a $20,000 conversation for someone listening to this, if you're willing to take the ideas that Grant's sharing and actually go apply them. I can think of another job where some guy stiffed me for $10K and just was like, yeah, plumbing's done. It was in Asheville, 2 hours away from me. And I would go and I was like, not a single thing of plumbing has been done in this house, and I paid him. I pay him in advance. And it's just like, this stuff happens. Unfortunately, the contracting space is not known for like the crazy highest. It's just unfortunate, but it's not known for the highest integrity. And so being that pessimist, wearing that hat of asking all those questions, dude, this advice is brilliant. It's gold. Thank you.
And one more thing to piggyback off that, when I know I have found a good quality contractor is when I talk to them, well, how do you get paid? What do we do with that? And he says, just pay me when I'm done, dude. That you right then, it's a guy that is a true contractor. He doesn't need money day one, right? He doesn't have financial problems, which is amazing. And he knows that his work's going to be good and you're going to pay him. So if you find somebody that says, just pay me when you're done, now okay, I've found a good contractor. So keep that in mind too, because the other ones are saying, I need 50% like now, and I'll start in 2 weeks, right? It's like, no, bullshit. This guy says, hey, I'll get over there, in a week or whatever it is, but just pay me when I'm done, and buy materials and pay me when I'm done. That's gold.
I love that. Well, Grant, this has been an honor. This has been a privilege. How can people reach out to you? How do they connect with you? How do they get in touch with? I know we mentioned the webinar earlier, but maybe we'll just plug that again here real fast. We'll put all this in the show notes and we'll wrap up today. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it. We got to talk about some shit that I love talking about, like contractors and things like that. And a lot of shows we don't talk about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So this is like important stuff. Yeah, that I love. But people can find me on Instagram at Grant Warrington. Reach out to me and, you can DM me and I'll respond if you have any questions. Apartmentbuyingblueprint.com. That's where you can learn more about my course and me teaching you how to buy small apartments, and then Apartment Buying Blueprint /workshop. And that will be the webinar. But again, just at Grant Warrington on Instagram and you'll get everything right there.
You got it, man. Well, we'll tag all that in the show notes, and, really appreciate your time. It was an honor.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for having me, man.
Okay, well, that's a wrap, guys. Great, right? Like, that stuff was good. Hopefully you took notes. And here's to you having the best contractors in the entire world overseeing your rehabs, your updates, your co-living spaces, whatever you're doing in the real estate space. I hope that was helpful for you. We'll see you guys next time.